Hi, the dream I want to share, this is about spiritual warfare. So this is actually a witchcraft one that had happened. This is back in the 12th of March 2025. So how this, and the reason I did it in this order, just so you know, is the one I've literally just filmed, which I can't remember the title. Was it Walking with? I think it was entitled Walking with Jesus. This was set in a kind of garden environment. Well, this one was literally, it was almost like the same garden. It looked almost exactly the same. So I thought it was a good kind of continuation. So in this, and elements of it are quite kind of similar as well. So the way this started, it felt like a warning dream to me. Obviously I only realised that afterwards, but it felt like a warning dream. So I was around at somebody else's house and there was some sort of large gathering. It was like a family gathering, like you would have a barbecue or something like that, have loads of people around. But we weren't the hosts. The host randomly, so we have, again, we're in the back garden, we're facing the front of the house, and kind of quite a few people dotted around in the garden, and then randomly the host, one of the woman host, ends up going into labour. Don't know why I felt the need to say woman host there. But the woman host, yeah, she went into labour, not the male host, just for clarity, yeah, for anybody who's confused out there. Yeah, so the woman went into labour just suddenly at this party, and I randomly stepped in to help out. Now again, in the previous dream, if you go back to, I was the one who helped out with a child in that dream as well, but I helped out somehow in the labour. Not that I have any skills, I don't see how I could have been of any use whatsoever, but apparently I stepped in, I started to help. Post-birth, and then I was kind of cleaning up. Sounds like the sort of job that nobody's really going to be putting their hands up for anyway, but yeah, cleaning the baby off and making sure the mother's okay, all that kind of thing. And during this labour, she had given birth to 2 boys and 1 girl, and between the couple already, I don't know whether they were they'd had all these children as a marriage between them, or whether it was 2 partners maybe, where they'd had previous children with another partner or not. I didn't have all that kind of detail because they had a lot of kids. So they had 2. So this was 2 boys and 1 girl. They already had 3 boys. So it was now a family of 6. And I was kind of entertaining the other boys who were a little bit older, obviously, with things like music videos and stuff like that, just to keep them entertained. And while I was doing this and kind of entertaining, I happened to sort of say, where's my little girl Sophie? So Sophie, just so you know, is my little girl. She's 11 years old. I say little girl, I mean, how long do you still call them little girl? But that's how she kind of feels to me anyway. So she's 11 years old, and I look across and she's standing, facing. So she's to my side, to my right hand side. She's facing, halfway out the garden, facing the fence, just staring at a fence, which was super weird. And I just kind of looked at her for a bit, just thinking, what is she doing? She was just standing there like she was in a trance. And I mentioned, what's going on with Sophie over there? And someone said, oh, she's talking to the neighbours through the fence. So I thought, oh, okay, that kind of makes sense. But what I realised, what was actually happening was they were talking, but what they were doing is they were casting spells on her. So there was basically 2, I would have said, mid to early teens, so a little bit older than her maybe, a couple of girls that were in the neighbours, on the neighbour's property, and the mum. And the mum was kind of like sitting on some steps or something like that. The house was slightly elevated, so you could kind of see it. And they'd been out in the garden the whole time this was all going on. So they were doing their own stuff, I guess, in the garden, and they were just out there. And I'd seen the couple of girls. It was 2 or 3 girls. I don't really know 100%. Obviously, there could have been a dad. There could have been other people, but that's just what I remember from it. And so in that part, So they were casting spells, and so as soon as I realised that that's what was happening, then I just kind of broke out of whatever I was doing, and I just went into really, really heavy and intense prayer. And obviously everybody who I was with at this party had absolutely no idea that I was a Christian, and didn't really know anything about it at all. So in me suddenly going into really, really heavy prayer like that, they were kind of like, whoa, what's going on with Dave? You know, and it was so intense, this kind of prayer that I was going into. I was basically trying to counteract. I could somehow now hear their prayers that they were doing over all of this, and I just went into this kind of prayer, this sort of spiritual warfare sort of thing. So I was doing all of these really, really intense prayers, trying to counteract all the curses and all the other prayers that were coming through. And as I was doing it, the sky changed. It just changed to night time from it being daytime. It just changed to night. So it's quite dramatic as to what was going on. And I was praying, I was doing all these things. And then I opened my eyes, and then Sophie was just standing next to me, just looking all innocent, kind of like, what's going on, Dad? You know, kind of thing. And then that was basically how it all just ended. It ended. And so it was just one of those ones where I think it was, what it was trying to tell me was obviously making sure that you do intercede for your children all the time. So there's been some pretty intense stuff that's been going on. So Sophie specifically said the sinner's prayer, you know, the typical one that we sort of give as a guide for people to obviously say to them, invite God into their lives. So this was back in December of 2024. As I said, this is now March of 2025 that this dream's happening. And there had been a lot of spiritual warfare that had been going on in and around that time. So as soon as she, you know, kind of did that, it kind of almost like painted a target on her back, which is kind of how I tend to find it does work. It certainly did work. That's how it was for me. You know, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe less, maybe a week of me doing the sinner's prayer and truly meaning it, breaking down, crying, asking for forgiveness, all of these kind of things, then the spiritual warfare came on heavy, and I was going into all sorts of sleep paralysis, demonic things were going off. I was getting attacked all the time, and so this is what this kind of felt like it was for me. It was basically a warning saying, look, there's stuff going on, you need to intercede. And so the thoughts on that were really, that it was that it's something that we need to do. So it was a warning to me. There's been other ones as well, and they always seem to be about Sophie, which is so this as I said, kind of made me think about what we should all be doing for our children regularly, which is obviously to pray for, obviously, that they would be surrounded by children who are ideally believers, that they would be have friends that would obviously build them up rather than tear them down, that they would be always safe, so never in the wrong place at the wrong time, that they would, you know, they would have, you know, that God would provide them angels with messages to actually, you know, speak to us and tell us to, you know, go left, don't go right. You know, when it comes to directions, never in the wrong place at the wrong time. Delay me if that means I'm not going to be in any kind of danger. So these kind of prayers that we should be sort of praying over our children regularly. I tend to do that whenever they're going anywhere that's sort of further afield than me, or going anywhere unaccompanied. Then I kind of do those things for obviously protection. But that's really all this was. There'll be some other ones in this kind of series of these types. But again, there were ones which I did have one which was again prophetic, and then I saw that come to fruition maybe months later. But yeah, that's where I'll leave this one. Okay, thanks for your time.